Coqui is the common name for several species of small frogs in the genus Eleutherodactylus, which means free toes, because the coqui do not have webbed feet. Instead, they have special toe pads which allow them to climb vertical surfaces and cling to leaves and trees. Coqui are 1 or 2 inches long and weigh 2 to 4 ounces. The coqui are native to Puerto Rico. Their name is an onomatopoeic, mimicking their very loud mating call, coqui, co-co-qui, which can reach up to 100 decibels. The coqui is one of the most common frogs in Puerto Rico, with more than 17 different species found within its territory, including 13 in El Yunque National Forest. Fossil evidence shows that coqui have inhabited Puerto Rico for more than 30 million years. Other species of this genus can be found elsewhere in the Caribbean and the neotropics, including Central and South America. The coqui is an unofficial national symbol of Puerto Rico. There is a Puerto Rican saying that goes, "Soy de aquí como el coqui," which translates to, "I'm from here, like the coqui." Coquis utilize a variety of habitats, including forests, gardens, greenhouses, and spaces under rocks and logs. Most coquis spend their nights in the forest canopy and retreat to shelter on the ground at dawn. Their predators include birds, snakes, and large arthropods such as spiders. The frogs eat mostly arthropods, including spiders, crickets, and roaches. Smaller coquis often eat smaller prey, such as ants, while larger coquis have been observed eating small frogs and lizards. A coqui will often sit motionless on leaves until prey gets very close, then quickly strike to ambush. The male coqui use their loud call to attract females and repel other males during mating season. Breeding occurs throughout the year, but especially during the wet season. Unlike most frogs, the Puerto Rican coqui doesn't have a tadpole stage. Instead, tiny frogs or froglets with short tails emerge from the eggs. The eggs die if they dry out, so father frog provides them with water through contact with his moist skin. They also stay with the froglets for several days after they hatch to protect them from predators and prevent them from drying up. Coquis can live 6 or 7 years, but most live for about a year. There are or were 17 species of coqui native to Puerto Rico. Their conservation status, according to the IUCN, or International Union for Conservation of Nature, is as follows. Common coqui, least concern. Whistling coqui, least concern. Red-eyed coqui, least concern. Mona coqui, vulnerable. Grass coqui, threatened. Mountain coqui, endangered. Rock coqui, endangered. Treehole coqui, endangered. Bronze coqui, endangered. Dwarf coqui, endangered. Virgin Islands coqui, endangered. Cricket coqui, critically endangered. Locust coqui, critically endangered. Plains coqui, critically endangered. Ednida's coqui, critically endangered, possibly extinct, last seen 1990. Golden coqui, these frogs are novel in that they give birth to live young, critically endangered, possibly extinct, last seen 1981. Web-footed coqui, critically endangered, possibly extinct, last seen 1976. The Taíno people migrated from South America to Boraican, or the island of Puerto Rico, between 1000 and 1200 AD. On Boraican, they were greeted by the coqui. The coqui had inhabited Boraican long before people came to the island. They revealed powerful secrets to the Taíno. They warned the Taíno of the atmospheric changes that signal a storm. The coqui symbolize purity since they live between water and land, and their nocturnal singing brings sweet dreams and bind the Taíno to Boraican. Taíno petroglyphs depict the frogs, and many of their stories and legends revolve around them. There is a legend in which Atabe, the beautiful goddess of fertility and fresh water, fell in love with Coqui. Coqui was the chief's son and was known for his beautiful singing. When he went out to fish, Atabe would ensure that he came back with a big catch, and he would sing to her. One evening, she came to him in the form of a Taíno maiden, and they fell in love. She told Coqui that she would come back the next evening at moonrise. The next evening came, but Huracan, the god of chaos and storms, came first. Huracan was jealous of the lovers. The sky blackened, the winds howled, and the storm snatched Coqui away. Atabey searched for Coqui, but never saw him again. She did not know how she could go on without her beautiful Coqui, so she created this tiny frog that will forever call his name so that he will never be forgotten. Another myth involving the Coqui took place a long, long time ago, back when the world was new. The islands of the Caribbean were ruled by the parrot Queen Iguaca. She was a wise ruler, but she was very sad. When she looked at Puerto Rico, all the animals had grown fat and lazy. No one wanted to dance. No one wanted to sing. No one wanted to work. All the animals just laid around the island eating and sleeping, except for the bats, who in their cool, dark caves were separate from the other animals. The birds no longer flew. The snakes just barely slithered. The lizard couldn't even climb grass stalks. And the tree frogs, they were so fat their legs didn't even reach the ground. The queen looked around the island and tried to find a solution that would make her animals happy and productive again. She consulted with her court, and they made a plan. The plan was to entice the animals to take part in a race. The winner of the race would gain a great prize. The prize would be whatever that animal wanted most. The birds dreamed of trees that always had fruit. The snakes dreamed of rocks that kept them warm all through the night. The lizards dreamed of thornless branches and the warm sun to lay on. And the tree frog dreamed of a voice, for at that time the tree frogs were silent. The bats just watched. They already had everything they wanted. The animals of Puerto Rico trained hard for the race because they all wanted the prize. They slithered, flew, hopped, and crawled in an attempt to get in shape so they could win the race. The tree frogs were so small and their legs were so short that they were at a severe disadvantage. But they all looked alike, so they planned to cheat. They would run the race as a relay. Whenever a frog was tired and slowing, another frog waiting at the side of the track would take its place. They still trained very hard. The day of the race dawned, and Queen Iguaca could hardly recognize the animals of Puerto Rico. The birds flew up in the trees and sang to welcome their queen. The snakes slithered to the starting line, whipped thin and fast. The lizards ran up, bobbing their heads to the queen and showing off their fit bodies. Last of all came the tree frogs. They were even smaller than ever, with their slim and fit selves. The bats, who did not like to fly during the day, stationed themselves along the racetrack so they could watch. The racetrack was marked. The animals were at the starting line, and the queen stood atop a palm tree. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Yes, yes," the animals cried. Tree Frog just nodded and bobbed up and down because he could not speak. Queen Iguaca raised her wings high and cried, "Get ready, get set, go!" and flapped her wings down. The animals all took off from the start line. The tiny tree frog got a quick start and was ahead of the other animals. Snake wasn't worried about the tiny tree frog. He was worried about Bird. He thought flying was a great advantage, and so he whipped upward with his tail. Bird flew sideways and upward to avoid Snake. This slowed down both Bird and Snake. Bird looked ahead with his sharp eyes and saw both lizard and tree frog ahead. The bird wasn't worried about the little frog. It snatched a branch in passing and dropped it on Lizard. Lizard wiggled out from beneath the branch and glared up, hissing at the bird. He whipped his tail sideways, trying to trip the snake. But of course, Snake does not have legs, and it's very difficult to trip somebody with no legs. Bird and Snake both thought this a great joke and laughed so hard it slowed them down, and Lizard ran ahead again. Snake glared at Bird, flattening itself to the ground and racing ahead. Bird flapped its wings harder, catching up to Snake and Lizard. They did not see Tree Frog. They were certain it had been left far behind. The animals raced all out. The finish line was in sight. The queen waited. They surged over the finish line so close that no one was sure who had won. The queen turned towards them, raising her wings a little. That was when they saw, next to the queen was the tiny tree frog. The animals were very angry, hissing and thrashing their tails. "Tree Frog cheated," they cried. "It isn't possible he outran us." Queen Iguaca looked at them, disappointment showing in her slightly ruffled feathers. Did anyone see the Tree Frog cheat? The bats were silent, exchanging looks with the queen. Snake, bird, and lizard all looked at each other. No, they said together, but he's so small and his legs are so short, he couldn't have beaten us in a race. Queen Iguaca flapped her wings. Perhaps, if you weren't so busy sabotaging each other, you might have been more observant. The bats nodded agreement with the queen and flew off to rest in their cool, dark caves. The queen glanced down at the little frog. She knew how they had won the race, but all of the animals had cheated in one way or another. Still, they had lost their lethargy and were active again. I will give you your prize, she told the frog, but you must also accept a punishment. The tree frog looked up at her and nodded. Tree frogs have a voice now, the queen proclaimed. Their name is no longer Tree Frog, but Coqui from the song they will sing. But, she said, looking down at Coqui, you will not be able to sing under the sun or leave the island of Puerto Rico. If you leave, you will die. The Coqui did not want to leave their beautiful island, so they nodded their acceptance. From that night to today, if you are on the beautiful island of Puerto Rico after dark, you will hear the singing of the Coqui.